Hi, welcome. My name's Adam Cook. I'm a physiotherapist. I'm here today to talk to you about the importance of movement and in relation to sitting at desks, sitting at home. The current climate that we find ourselves in, we're often working in slightly different situations than we would normally find ourselves, and more importantly working from home. And what we've talked about today is the importance of movement and how we can start to move in a more frequent manner, which will help to avoid some of our musculoskeletal type pains and aches and stiffness that people often report as a result of the current change in climate. So from an evidence perspective, initially people often thought that there was a perfect posture, a perfect sitting posture or perfect standing posture, and actually we know from the evidence that we currently have that isn't necessarily the case at all. The more important thing is about the change of posture. So we all may sit in a slightly different way. We all may stand in a slightly different way depending on what we need to do for our requirements of work, but actually it's about our ability to change that posture on a frequent basis. And some of the things we're going to talk about today and demonstrate are different exercises and different movements that you can do in order to ease some of those tensions and pains that you might feel. When you are sitting at a desk at home, the first thing that we need to consider is your level of comfort. So if you're sitting at a kitchen table with a kitchen chair, we need to appreciate that that's not necessarily how you would normally be sat at work. So if you have a chair at work that you would normally use, there's facilities for you to pick that chair up and use that at home. And in the first instance, that would be an ideal situation. If you can't do that, then we can use a normal chair at home, but just make sure you have the adequate support. If you have a chair that has no back on it, you have to appreciate that you've not necessarily got the support there for your back, so it's better to have a chair with some back support. You can also use a cushion potentially to put in the lower part of your back to give you that support onto your lumbar spine. When we're thinking about the setup of your desk, what's really important is that we have the screen that you're using at eye level, so the top of your screen should be level with your eyes when you're in a seated position, or equally if you're in a standing position, they should also be there as well. It's quite difficult at times if you're using a Surface Pro or one of the Windows laptops, because they often find it difficult for them to be raised. If that is the case, we need to potentially think about having a separate keyboard in order for you to work at that appropriate level. Another key point for your sort of sitting position is the screen should be within arm's reach away from you. If the screen's too close, you can often find that you can be quite on top of the screen, which sometimes can put you into sort of awkward neck positions. Equally, if the screen's too far away, you can find yourself leaning forward, looking at the screen, and again, that can put some strain on the tissues. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's causing tissue damage, it's just putting strain on the tissues, which often results in aches and pains and stiffness. So with regards to movement, the key thing is about the frequency with which we move. If we move frequently through the day, we reduce the potential for our muscles to become stiff and sore, which often can occur when we're sitting or standing for long periods of time. The current guidelines for this is every 45 minutes we should be getting up and moving for around about 5 minutes. And this can be low-level exercise. It doesn't mean that you have to go for a long walk or a run. It can be just gentle exercises and some gentle movements that we're going to demonstrate in a further video from here. The importance of this is that when you stand up and you start to move, we ask the tissues to start to move in a more normal manner. If we're sat for long periods of time, we're held in a particular position, and what we're trying to encourage is motion. So we know that muscles and joints like to be moving, and as a result of that, we're going to have potentially less musculoskeletal type symptoms, like I talked about in terms of aches and pains and stiffness.